The member for Morialta.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This has been a deeply disappointing display by a dysfunctional Labor government that has long forgotten that they are here to represent the people of South Australia and do what is in their best interests. Yet the people of South Australia cannot turn a corner these days without being mugged by this Labor government that does not care for their future, that only cares for their own political survival. We've had a lot of discussion in the last few days about conventions. And the Treasurer today and the member for Waite has said that this convention, which has apparently stood since the 1850s, is being broken. But I would say I'd rather break a convention than break the state. Break the state for the second time when we're talking about matters to do with the state bank. Mr Speaker, this convention, which apparently the Treasurer says will rain fire and brimstone upon the people of South Australia and any future government, which the Minister for Health said would rain fire and brimstone on any future government, when this opposition did the right thing by the people of South Australia in blocking the car park tax in 2014, is not worth anything if it damages the interests of the people of South Australia, because they are our first, second and third responsibility as members of parliament. We swear an oath that we will support their interests and their needs. In fact, this government was not interested in supporting convention at the 2014 election, when they said don't vote against the car park tax because there's a convention in place with the 2013 decision the 2012 decision to remove the costs orders against police, which was another example of a bad tax measure put into a budget, and the people of South Australia, in their best interest, the opposition supported the opposition of it. And of course, the biosecurity levy, the biosecurity tax, which this government also tried to put into a budget, which the member for Waite supported the opposition of. The member for Waite supported the removal of, as he did, the court's reversal of onus. This is a government that has not got the interests of the people of South Australia in their hearts, and they're using this convention as a fig leaf to cover their shame. The fact is that the opposition is acting to protect the interests of the people of South Australia, and that's what we're here to talk about today. The Premier started his speech by talking about leadership. Leadership. From this Premier, let's have a talk about the Premier's examples of leadership. This is the sort of person that went to an election promising that he was the only person that would protect the people of South Australia from an increase in the GST, and then went on the national news to fight for an increase in the GST. This is the Premier who went to an election promising that he was the only person that would protect the people of South Australia from a nuclear industry starting in this state, and then as soon as the election was over, went to the people of South Australia and said, we want to have the world's biggest nuclear dump here in South Australia. This is the sort of person who would get elected to Parliament and 3 elections in a row go forward on policies such as no privatisation, despite the privatisation of the forests and the MAC and the Land Title Office to come. This is the sort of person that would go to an election and win election 3 times on a promise that no Labor government would ever sell the repat, and then once he's elected, he would act against the interests of the people of South Australia to sell the repat. This is the sort of person who would put $600,000 of taxpayers' money into a joint venture with the Adelaide City Council and a private company to run a stall at a beer festival in China, and without doing any due diligence, and then when it goes bad, he'll walk away and blame everyone else involved except for himself. Who would go into business with this guy? Who would invest in a state where this is the sort of person running the show? Who would possibly invest in this state under this Premier? The Treasurer has been warned 3 times and he still doesn't get it. This is the Premier who promised a kinder, a gentler politics. This is the Premier who came to office promising a break with his predecessor, who would have a debate and decide approach, not an announce and defend approach. The reality is that this Premier makes Mike Rann look like Mother Teresa by comparison. The fact is that this is a government. And here's his latest scam on the people of South Australia. Pick a target in the banks who he assumes everyone will be happy to kick. Surprise them with a raid to demonstrate his masculinity and to try and win some cheap populist points, despite the disastrous consequences for the state that he pretends and purports to lead, despite the impact on confidence, despite the impact on jobs in South Australia, despite the impact on South Australia's reputation interstate and internationally, and despite the potential impact on every mortgage holder, every business with a loan, every person who wants a job in this state, anyone who holds shares in superannuation. It will make the cost of doing business in South Australia more expensive. It will make the cost of living in South Australia more expensive, because the trick is, the people of South Australia, as the Leader of the Opposition correctly said, are smarter than this government. The people of South Australia, as the member for Schubert correctly said, know that this tax will impact on them and their cost of living. The Liberal Party is only interested in protecting the interests of the people of South Australia, and they will see that. We are prepared for this fight, and we will fight this tax through to the election. So much for the leadership of the Premier. What about the toadies who surround him? The South Australian Labor Party, not content with having broken South Australia once with their state bank disaster, they are now seeking to break South Australia again with their state bank tax disaster.
Shame.
This is a state that understands what that pain has meant when it has been inflicted before, and they will not stand for it again. The Liberal Party of South Australia will not stand for it again. We will block this tax, and this government must take this to an election that I am confident they will lose, because the South Australian people know that they deserve better.
Yeah.